Healing is possible. Getting better is possible. There are so many moments where I thought the only way out of this is for me to either not exist anymore or to just start taking drugs or something, because that's all I saw. I didn't think that there was any way out of this, but that's not true. There are so many ways out, so many different ways out that include much more self-love and possibility for happiness. Those are there, I promise. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I hope that everyone is doing well. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today, I wanted to talk about difficult times in life and how we can get through those. Ups and downs in life are normal. Sometimes things are easier, other times things are harder. That's just kind of how it is, because we can't really always control what's going on around us. But then there are other times that are just harder than normal, where whatever difficult situation or difficult situations we are faced with are just so hard that we just get consumed by that. And it's really difficult to see anything other than that, because that's all you are feeling in that moment. And I can relate to that feeling from different points in my life. But today I wanted to go back to one specific phase in my life that very much felt like that, where I was probably emotionally and physically the most unwell that I have ever been. And I would like to share some experiences and thoughts, specifically some things that helped me get through that time. Hopefully that can help someone else going through something similar. So to give a little bit of context, this whole situation for me was the result of a lot of different things that had happened in my personal life. In a few of my other podcast episodes, I have talked a little bit more about a relationship that I was in and a breakup that I went through, and that whole situation definitely played a part in all of this, but it was also only a fraction of the story when it comes to the entire situation, which was my life at that point and why things went the way they did. There are a lot of other parts to my past and things that I've experienced that have nothing to do with that, things that I've never talked about on here. And so this whole situation was really the combination of a lot of different things that all came together and then resulted in me struggling the way I did. After a majority of the really shitty stuff had happened, I went through a phase where I really struggled to find strength and hope in terms of how I would be able to move forward. And I just really felt like I'd woken up in the horror movie version of my life, and I didn't know how to go from there. And so regardless of the circumstances, I know that this is a feeling that a lot of people can relate to. And so today I wanted to talk about that a little bit and share some things that helped me get through a time where I really just wanted to give up. So I wanted to start this conversation by saying that it is okay to not always be okay. And I wish I would have known this sooner, because for me, when everything started to go really crazy, I just tried to pull myself together as best as I could in every moment. And everything that happened, no matter how painful it was for me, I just kept thinking, okay, this is happening now. What do I do about it? How can I fix this? How can I improve the situation? How can I change this? Where do I need to look at my responsibility in all of this? I buried myself in knowledge, trying to gain some information on how I would be able to deal with what I was facing in that moment. And, now looking back, staying solution oriented is always a good approach generally, but in this situation, I was just taking it too far, because me continuously looking at what can I do to make this better? How can I fix this? How can we improve this? Was just me staying in denial and not wanting to face what had actually happened and what that was really causing within me. The longer I did that, always trying to be rational and contained about everything, and always trying to look forward in terms of what can I do to make this better. From the outside, I seemed okay, but I started to experience the worst anxiety I've ever experienced in my entire life. And I think it was kind of like my body trying to tell me, can you please stop? Like, can you take a step back and actually look at what's going on? But I didn't do that. I think also because of internal judgment and also fear of judgment from the outside of what would happen if I would actually face what's been going on. It was, of course, impossible to sustain that, because you just can't. And so eventually, after pulling that through for a really, really long time and continuously ignoring the signals of my body telling me that it just can't anymore, eventually I got really sick. And it was kind of like my body just collapsed in a way, because I was healthy, and then there was one situation that happened which was just so painful for me, and it just blew everything entirely out of proportion. And in that situation, I really had no ability to stay in denial, even if I would have wanted to, because it was just so loud and so clear. And so in that moment when that happened, it was kind of like it just zapped me out of my mode of continuously trying to be like, no, everything's fine, like it's gonna be okay, which it wasn't at this point. And so it just zapped me out of that, and I went from healthy to like completely sick in like 1 or 2 hours after that incident happened. And my body just completely like gave up on me, because for the first time I had looked at what was actually going on, because I was forced to. I really didn't have any other option. But because I hadn't looked at things for such a long time, everything that hit me in that moment, I think, was just too much for me to understand in a way. I've never been that sick in my life. It was an awful experience. And also to be sick for that long, because I was sick for a really long time after that, it was a lot. And I think my body just literally like collapsed and gave up in a way. The reason why I'm sharing this story is because I want to say it is okay to not always be okay when painful things happen in life. And we understand that when it comes to physical pain. Like, let's say someone has a car crash, they have an accident, they get hurt. We understand that after that, that person will not be okay. And nobody goes in and says, well, you are overreacting or get back up faster, because we know it's very logical. That person has had an accident. But the same goes for emotional pain. When painful things happen in life, it's like a car crash. You just get hit, you didn't see it coming. And so it's not only okay, but extremely necessary to take time after that to get back on your feet, to take time to process what has happened. It's okay to not be okay after that. And emotional pain can affect us in very similar ways that physical pain can also. It's just not always that visible, but that doesn't make it less real. I was basically driving a car at full speed, and then I had an accident. And then I was telling myself, well, you should really get back up right now. And you shouldn't only do that, you should also start fixing the car that's been broken, because you are strong enough for that, you are capable of that, so please do that now. When that has nothing to do with being strong or not. I had an accident. Why are we putting these standards on ourselves? Why was I putting that standard on myself? And I really only allowed myself to not show up at 100% anymore after I got sick, because it was very visible to everyone, because I looked the part. And so then I was like, okay, well, this is tangible and real enough for me to say, well, sorry guys, I can't do this anymore. But why does it even have to go that far. I wish I would have understood earlier that it's okay to not be okay, even if my body is okay. I really think I would have not gotten sick in the way that I did if I would have known this sooner. When something painful in your life happens, it is not a weakness or an inability to deal with life, to be affected or to be upset or to be struggling because of that. It makes you human. And if anything, it makes you someone who is strong, not someone who is weak. If you are willing to look at that and face that. And anyone who tells you otherwise probably understands very little about what it means to be human and what it means to live life. Sorry for saying it that directly, but that's just how I see it. Regardless of the lows that I felt in my life, I would say I'm naturally a pretty positive person. Like I naturally have a half glass full kind of outlook on life, and I've always kind of managed to see the good and the bad, and I'm also generally very grateful and excited and happy to be alive. But in this situation, I just was no longer able to hold on to that side of me because it was just too much. And so losing that part of me, not only a little bit, but really just entirely, was one, of course, very scary, but also I hated that version of me. In these moments, my whole body and my mind and my heart was filled with so much pain and sadness and grief that whatever heaviness or darkness I was feeling was just all that I could see. I could not see beyond that. And I think that's what happens when you're in this kind of state. You just can't see anything other than that anymore. And it doesn't matter how many people tell you that there is more than that. It doesn't mean how many it doesn't matter how many things you try to do to get out of that. You just can't see beyond that. And for a long time, that was where I was. I just thought, this is it. Like there is nothing more to what I'm feeling right now, because it just consumes you in a very scary way. And I know that when you are not in that state, or when you have maybe never been in that state, it's very hard to understand because it sounds very illogical. It's like, of course there's more than that. Like there is always more than that. Of course there is. But when you're in that, you just really, you can't see it anymore. I remember there was one specific incident that kind of shifted my perspective on this and kind of took me out of that a little bit. And I remember on that day, I was really, really struggling, like so bad. I really thought like, this is it, I'm dying, like it's just over. I was really, really in a bad state, but I had also somehow confirmed to go visit my best friend with another friend of ours, to visit her in the city where she lived. And me, based on what I was feeling in that moment, I just couldn't see that anything would potentially make me feel better. And so I just thought the only option for me now is to cancel. I'm not going. About an hour before the car was supposed to come to pick us up, I had not packed. I was not ready, but I also hadn't canceled or said anything that I'm not going, because I just couldn't move. It was as if I was paralyzed. And I just thought like this is it. I don't know what to do. And I remember someone close to me somehow saw me not ready, not packed at all. And they were like, what are you doing? Like, don't you need to leave in an hour? And I was like, yeah, I'm not going. I'm sick. I've canceled. And this person was like, no, you are going. I don't care what you are saying. Get your ass up right now. Pack your things. You're getting in that car, because I know how much you love your friends and I know how much they love you. And so you are going. No discussion. Sometimes I really felt like someone being honest with me and not further simply perpetuating the state that I was in was like the biggest blessing in disguise, even though I couldn't see it in that moment. But anyways, that person was like, you're going. And I was like, well, I really have no choice at this point. So I went, and I had so much fun. Of course, I was struggling. Of course, it was hard for me. That's kind of self-explanatory at this point. But I still made beautiful, amazing memories with two people who I really cared for. And it's not like we did anything crazy. Like we were in some random small town in Germany in the winter. It was cold, it was raining, but we kind of just made the most of it. And we actually had a really amazing time. And those moments were filled with so much joy and fun and laughter. I had missed out on so much that represented fun and joy for me for so long that I almost couldn't even remember what that felt like. And so I remember I came home after that and I thought, oh my God, I would have missed this. And then I thought, how much have I missed out on because my mind has started to tell me that there is nothing left of me anymore other than whatever I'm feeling in this moment. And I have believed that lie, even though it's not true. I mean, it's true in the way that it's real in that moment, what you are feeling, and that is valid, but it's not true in the way that the thought that there is nothing beyond you anymore other than the darkness that you are feeling in that moment, that thought is a lie. It's not real. Eventually, I saw more and more that yes, my world has crashed and burned to the ground, but the entire world has not. And even though the world can be a crazy place, it is filled with so much beauty and so many amazing people and amazing ideas and amazing experiences that you can have. And we have things such as nature and animals and art and music and books and travel and just so many things that are beyond what you are feeling in this moment. Those things are always there. That beauty in the world is always there. And you are a part of that in every moment. Doesn't matter what you are feeling or what you are going through. And that's something we are not allowed to forget. That moment was like a real wake-up call for me. But even after that, I had so many moments where it took so much strength for me to not cancel and to go on that trip or to go for that dinner or to meet that person or to go and watch that movie. Sometimes it really felt impossible, but I just decided at some point I cannot give up on life. I need to give something making me feel better a chance. I owe it to myself to do that. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Sometimes it made me feel better, sometimes it backfired. Like I had moments where I'd go somewhere thinking, okay, I'm saying yes to something, and then after half an hour I would have to go home because I just couldn't handle it. But eventually, over time, it was like a muscle I trained, and over time it got easier and easier for me to see more and more that whatever I'm feeling is valid and it is real, but it is not all there is to life. It is not all there is to me. It is not all there is to my future. It cannot be, because there is so much around me that is telling me otherwise. Also, I think the people who don't accept you or love you at your low really don't deserve you at your high. And so if someone who really matters to you in your life only wants to be around you or only likes you when you are your most amazing, energetic, carefree, positive, amazing version, then in my eyes, that is not real friendship. That is not real love. And I know that that sometimes hurts to hear, but I think that's just how it is. I think it really comes down to knowing that you deserve love and respect and support, even if you are not your most amazing version in that moment, even if you are not able to show up at 100%. You have to know that. And if other people are not able to give that to you, then there's absolutely nothing wrong with reaching out and asking for help or support in other ways. That's really, really important. I remember during this time, a lot of the advice that I would get from people was telling me to do something to improve myself. So to do things such as, go to the gym or invest in myself or make more money or work on a business or, get a revenge body, all kinds of advice. And all of that sounded like a joke to me. I saw no value in trying to achieve anything external, anything that I could show for myself, anything that could improve me, even my health or anything, because nothing felt like it would take away the pain that I was in. I tried all of those things and nothing took away that thing that I was feeling the whole time. And so knowing that none of it was doing that, I saw no value in even doing any of that. And so at that point, even if someone would have given me everything I've ever wanted and all the goals I have ever wanted to accomplish for myself, I don't think I would have really cared, because all I wanted in that moment was for this feeling to go away, and not managing that was really all I was able to see in that moment. Eventually, I saw that there were a few random moments that did feel more valuable than the rest. A few random moments where I felt like, okay, this makes sense. And that was when I was helping people, or I was being of service to the world in a way. I read somewhere that studies found out that people who are depressed say the word I or me more often than people who are not depressed. And that doesn't mean that those people are selfish, but it's just because in that moment, you are so consumed by whatever is going on in your mind, it's really hard to see anything other than that. And so they were saying one way that they suggest for people to get out of that is to be doing things for other people, to be helping other people, because it gets you out of that state. And that was exactly the experience I had, because I no longer cared about my life or what I was doing. I couldn't really have cared less, but I still cared about the world and people. And so I started to see value in that. The thing is, even after I became aware of that, it's not like it came easily to me to do so, because at this point, really nothing came easily for me anymore. And so I decided to deliberately push myself to do that more and more, as much as I could, because I realized that those were some of the only moments where things made sense to me. And so depending on the situation, depending on who you are as a person, it can be very different things. It can be bigger things, can be smaller things. But for example, I started to spend a lot of time, or more time than I would usually, creating videos and projects and interviews and editing things because that's something that I enjoy doing, where my intention was to create some kind of good in the world or within people, I guess. But of course, you don't need to start any crazy project or do anything that you are not capable of doing. You might not have time to do those things. Sometimes there's so much power in the little things that we can do. I think we often really underestimate the small ways in which our actions and words can help others and create so much good in the world, because it's literally as simple as smiling at a stranger, or assisting your sibling with their homework, or carrying the groceries for your elderly neighbor, or thanking someone, or giving someone a compliment, or giving a tip to someone. Like, it's so simple often, and all of those things can create so much good and so much positivity in the lives of others and in our world, and we often underestimate that. But that is a power that we all have within us, and actually, how beautiful is that? I cannot speak on behalf of everyone saying this is going to work, but I can say that it really worked for me. And I think whenever we struggle to find purpose in our own lives, it is possible to find that within helping others and creating good in the world. And of course, that is not to say that we should only be helping when we are not okay, or that it's not important to find purpose in our own lives. We have to eventually find that again in our own life. But for me, this really helped. Understanding this really helped until I was able to find that again. It really makes me sick to my stomach to think about how many people are made to believe that there is something wrong with them for having entirely human and understandable reactions to shitty situations and to pain, just because there are people out there who don't get it or who've never been through that, and they want to judge anything or anyone they cannot understand. I have been through that more times than I can count, and I know that in that you start to think, well, then it's real. I am the problem and I am alone in this, when that is never ever the case. I'm sorry, my front-facing light has turned off because the battery seems to have died, so we might be like in the dark now, but it doesn't matter because I'm just going to continue because we're almost finished. But anyways, I was saying that that is really the reason why I even want to talk about this, or why I want to make these episodes. It's like, to be honest, I don't really enjoy talking about this. There are a lot of other more lighthearted, more motivating, more fun topics that I would have very much preferred to talk about today. And I've been wanting to make this episode for a really, really long time. I never did it. And then 4 days ago, I was like, you know what? I'm going to film this week. And now it's taken me 4 days to film it. Every single day I wake up, I'm like, you know what? I really don't want to do it. Like I would prefer not to do it, because also I'm in such a different mindset now, and I'm in such a different phase of my life now, that I just know, like, okay, went through this, it was really bad, I know what it was, but then there's some part of me that just thinks, you know what, let's just keep it buried, let's just keep it in the past. That kind of makes it easier for everyone and easier for myself, I guess. But then there is this part of my brain, I guess, that just remembers what that was like when I was like in the thick of it, and I just saw no way out, and I thought, like, this is all there is. Like, I couldn't see a way out. It was just so dark. And so I don't really think you forget that. And when I remember those moments, I just think, wow, like, if me talking about this can make one person feel less alone with that, and I know what that is, then every reason as to why I might feel fear or doubt or whatever in terms of why I would choose not to talk about it just becomes so small and so stupid and so irrelevant. And so if there's one thing you take away from this today, but really if there's one thing you take away from anything I have ever said in my videos, is like, if you are struggling right now, you are not alone in it. Even if your mind might make you want to think that you are alone in it, that is not the case. There are so many people who have been exactly where you are, so many people who have gone through what you're going through. Not everyone, but some people have, a lot of people have, and those people have managed to get to the other side. And so there is absolutely no reason as to why you will not be able to do the same. These things are just often not talked about, not because they don't exist, but because it's hard to admit it. You know, we hide behind fake versions of ourselves and fake images of ourselves, because in that way we are able to protect ourselves from judgment, or we are able to hide versions of ourselves that we might not understand or that we fear will be judged. But that doesn't make it less real. It's still real. We're just not talking about it. And in that, the only thing we are really creating is we isolate ourselves from each other more, and we create more fear and judgment. But that doesn't mean that the actual cause doesn't still exist. Healing is possible. Getting better is possible. You know, there are so many moments where I thought the only way out of this is for me to either not exist anymore or to just start taking drugs or something, because that's all I saw. I didn't think that there was any way out of this, but that's not true. There are so many ways out, so many different ways out that include much more self-love and possibility for happiness. Those are there, I promise. Anyways, that is all I wanted to share for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a beautiful morning or evening or night, wherever you are. And I am very much looking forward to connecting with you in my next episode.